साथी भेट्छु ऊ पनि त एक्लो छैन म जस्तो नै देख्छु बन पाखा एकान्तमा उभिएको घर जिन्दगीको कालोमा सबलाई चाहिन्छ भर यो गाउँको ठिटोमा यो गाउँको हे ठिटोमा कान्छा मेरो नाम आउँदै जाँदै गर्नु है सबलाई राम राम आउँदै जाँदै गर्नु है सबलाई राम राम सँगै उचालौं मनभित्र मायाको एउटा बस्ती बसालौं मनको भारी गरौँ छ सँगै उचालौं मनभित्र मायाको एउटा बस्ती बसालौं साँझ पख डाँडा पारी दियो बले जस्तै जिन्दगीको अँधेरोमा लड्दै पड्दै यो गाउँको ठिटोमा यो गाउँको हे ठिटोमा कान्छा मेरो नाम आउँदै जाँदै गर्नु है सबलाई राम राम आउँदै जाँदै गर्नु है सबलाई राम राम
Testing. Testing.
Is it too high? It's okay? How close? Is this okay? That's probably about right.
That works, okay. Does it work there? That works.
There's no poetry between us. Set the paper to the pen. Something's burning in the attic. tongue will not defend through the arc of conversation.
If you'd like to sign up for the open mic reading, the sign-up sheet is on this table here. Herb is contemplating it. Our question for the night is if you could indicate your dream car or some other mode of transportation if it's not a car. We'll get started in a couple minutes.
What's the matter? Could we go downtown to the middle of the world? You were always such a pretty girl, and you told me I was beautiful. There's no poetry between us, said the paper to the pen, and I get nothing for my trouble but the ink beneath my skin. If your clothes are getting weary and your soul gone out of style, blame the miracle mile and the bottom of the ladder. Paint your eyes and hide the tatters. What's the matter? Towers floating on a sea of ghosts, downtown Los Angeles. I saw the Parthenon on cotton clouds coming over the hill. Right downtown Los Angeles. Right downtown Los Angeles. Trapped a dragon west of Chinatown for fire eaters up in Hollywood. She said, my little sister took a picture of God and floated away. Right downtown Los Angeles. Right downtown Los Angeles. When your hands are broken, when your words are slipping, imitations of a regular. Towers floating on a sea of ghosts. It's always the same, I told you. Right downtown Los Angeles. Right downtown Los Angeles. Downtown Los Angeles. Downtown Los Angeles. Downtown Los Angeles. Downtown. Fire eaters up in Hollywood. Downtown Los Angeles. Downtown Los Angeles. Downtown Los Angeles. You can't save me from myself. You can't save a love. You're lucky if you save.
Check one, check two. Good evening, everybody. Welcome to Soul Food Books tonight. Here, cheers to anyone who has got a cup in their hand. That's right. My name is Clint. On behalf of the staff and the tribe here, we want to welcome everybody here to our poetry night. Here at our little corner of our neighborhood, we got this thing where we turn the stage over to the light that is shining the brightest. Tonight, we have a tradition of it being through poetry, through words, and the impact that that can actually have to change the world. I would like to just welcome you, the poets that are signed up for the open mic list, and also the featured poets who are here to speak to us with a little bit of wisdom, and bring our favorite host back to the stage, Mr. Michael, everybody.
Thank you, Clint. I can't say enough how grateful I am for Soul Food Books and everything that Clint does to foster the arts, and including poetry, not just here at Soul Food, but in the greater Redmond area. And if you didn't know, he's chair of the Arts Commission here in Redmond. So he's a good person to get to know if you want to know about what's going on in the arts in this area. And Soul Food, it's such a great place. I just love it here, and I'm glad we have a good turnout tonight. If you haven't signed up on the sign-up sheet, it was right there. It's there it is. You can still sign up. We have lots of spots left. Tonight we have two wonderful readers. We'll have them read first, then we'll take a break for you to buy lots of stuff at the shop here, and then we'll have the open mic after that. I wanted to mention that Lana Ayers is not able to be here tonight. She's not feeling well, but hopefully she'll be back here next month. So, our two featured readers tonight are Charmaine Leland St. John and Elleraine Lockie, and they will bring a very different voice to us, I think, tonight, and I'm really looking forward to the reading. And I'll introduce both of them, and then Charmaine is going to say a few words about why she selected Elleraine to read with her, and then after Elleraine reads, then Charmaine will read. So, here's the official biography. Charmaine Leland St. John is a Native American poet, concert performer, lyricist, artist, and filmmaker. She's a 4-time Pushcart Prize nominee and the editor of the poetry e-zine quillandparchment.com. Look it up. Charmaine spends time between her home in the Hollywood Hills in Southern California and her fly fishing lodge on the Stillaguamish River in Arlington. She tours the United States, Canada, and England as a performance poet. She has published 4 books of poetry, Unsung Songs, Silver Tears and Time, Contingencies, La Kalima, and co-authored a book on film production design, Designing Movies, Portrait of a Hollywood Artist. And some of these books are available on the table here, so please check those out at the break. And a little bit about Elleraine Lockie. She is a widely published poet, nonfiction book author, and essayist who has received more than 400 poetry awards. Count that, 400. Her 7th chapbook, Stroking David's Leg, was awarded Best Individual Collection for 2010 from Purple Patch magazine in England. And her 8th chapbook, Read for the Funeral, won the 2010 San Gabriel Poetry Festival chapbook contest. She also teaches poetry writing workshops and serves as poetry editor for the Lifestyles magazine Lilipo. Am I saying that right? Lilipo. Okay, good. Wasn't quite sure all of a sudden. So I'm really, really pleased to have both of these readers here. And now I'd like to ask Charmaine if she could say something briefly about why she selected Elleraine to read with her. Thank you.
I need this down. Can I do it? Thank you. Elleraine Lockie is probably one of my favorite contemporary female poets. And I've had the great pleasure of publishing her at quillandparchment.com. Frequently when we go on tour, she opens her home to put up the poets who are traveling in the Bay Area so that we don't have to pay for hotels and stuff. And she's a wonderful poet, and I really wanted to bring someone that I could count on and not ask someone and then have them cancel at the last moment. She's someone that I know will go no matter what. Broken legs, broken arms, whatever, she'll show up. And I know that you're going to enjoy her poetry, and that's another important reason. Thank you.
Thank you, Michael and Charmaine. Is it on? I don't. Does it work? Okay. And thank you for having us. It's a really nice venue. I'm pleased to be here. I might make this a pretty short set. I thought it was 15 minutes. I guess this is a half an hour, so 20? Oh, okay. Well, 15's real close. Okay. This will be fine. It's National Poetry Month, as most of you probably know, so I thought I'd open with a little poem that I wrote in honor of Pablo Neruda's book entitled Book of Questions. For the Book of Answers, Neruda would ask, why doesn't the sky play the violin? And I would say, oh, it does, in strings of tinsel that slash across a bridge of blue, connecting us to the gods. One of the purposes I think that poetry serves in our society is as a vehicle for protest. So I have a couple of protest poems. Hearts of Stone. Saffron feathers fall from my thesaurus, souvenirs of the last visit to my daughter's house, where a cockatiel confines in a cage, an injured winged gift left partially opened by some cat in the middle of the street. survival of the fittest, and no just cause for the stone of sadness that moved like a blood clot through veins to clog my heart. When someone left a canary at the dump locked in its cage, or because pipes of fat are shoved repeatedly down a duck's throat at a foie gras factory, or owners attach steel spurs for a cockfight. I place the feathers back in the book to mark pages bearing words like malefic, factinoris, and belluine, disguises that the brain bequeaths the heart. Oh, that poem is, I turned it into a collage, which is a combination of my handmade papers and my poetry and various things. And there's a portfolio of them over there, and you're free to look through them afterwards. And this poem is the crux of one of them. I read something on the internet a little while ago that made me really mad, and so I used my weapon of poetry. Taking issue with Marcellino, who suggests a boy flex his forearm instead of shoulder when he fingers a girl. A forearm like he's pulling a calf. Let there be light in the darkened corner of the barn, where a girl waits for the haystack lush, breeze through chokecherry bush touch from her first boyfriend. A boy who perhaps works at the post office, where he spits on a finger and pets a stamp onto an underpaid envelope. Or maybe his mother introduced him as a child to the art of finger painting, when he learned to ease fire engine red into the pink of an earthworm's crawl, into flush of cheek and slush of melting snow, with the cursive of one slow O after another. Or let's say he plays Chopin late at night, after his garage band practice, taps the keys with feather tips, how he holds the hammer inside, turns the slams against his heart into a prayer. Like a priest saves himself for Christ, knowing the sacrifice will be rewarded in the end. The way lightning explodes over the night prairie, blesses both the boy and girl through the one window, and blinds even the stars with its brilliance. Poetry can also function as therapy, both for the poet and sometimes to the reader. How many people here have a sleep apnea machine at night? Nobody? A sleep apnea machine. You have to put it on when you stop breathing at night. One person? Oh my gosh, you're such a healthy group. Well, I have one. Angle of repose. The snorkel-like headgear, perhaps something out of the bar scene in Star Wars. Always good for a laugh, unless you're the one with sleep apnea wearing it, who is more likely to cry in the struggle against suffocation anxiety. Unless you know that not long ago you would have had a hole drilled in your throat, a plug during the day. The history has trained hands that caress the back of your mind, continue to knead down the neck, the shoulders, spine, chest. Fingers flick on the switch of surrender, air thick with fog that sounds as though a cougar breathes down your throat, shape shifts into Sandberg's little cat feet. The kitten to whom they belong sits on silent haunches by the black machine beside your bed before moving on, like the tooth fairy before the next house call. I go back to Montana every summer, where I grew up, and I stay in a cabin on a horse ranch that used to be my family's homestead. And that experience and growing up there influences much of my work. And here's a couple of poems that tell you a little bit why. Solar power on the prairie. Here, with the certainty that sun climbs the Bear's Paw Mountains every morning, I return to the warmth each summer, walk the prairie roads when the sun's hands touch mountain tops, when they open perfume on purple clover blossoms, burnish pheasant feathers to a spit shine, and snap the stereo switch that sets roosters and meadowlarks to music. A Chinook from the west turns wheat into soft wind chimes, and cottonwood leaves bend their ears into the whispers, while Cree, 10 miles east, talk to their God at this time every a.m. The farmers rise and pray for grain clouds, to cry over dust-depressed crops. But I welcome the hands of dawn, how they wander over my unbuttoned body, strip the gray from daybreak, stain my skin a kindle wood brown, inject the fuel to burn for another year. A matter of degree. In Montana, when anything injured comes your way, whether it limps on 2 or 4 legs, chases after the tail of sanity, or suffers still and silent in the wreckage of time, it's your responsibility. You might be able only to feed hunger its next fix, to invest a quick call to an animal's owner, to afford the few dollars that will drive a migrant family to the next town, or to sign a petition that preserves what's left of the eye of the needle in the Badlands. But your people know the necessity of communal. You've inherited the knowledge. 3 generations of families peppered over an endless prairie was all it took to evolve the instinct of obligation. And when one of you moves away to another kind of vastness in a city, this birthright still runs through your blood. There, it's sometimes hard to leave the house for fear of finding another stray cat or dog, of meeting too many street beggars for the budget, or a lonely old man at Starbucks who can't stop talking about World War II. Reading the headlines, turning on newscasts, or answering the phone becomes intolerable when there's no more to give. You start to feel naked in the midst of closed indifference and raped by the mass of need. The only way to cope is to move further and further away from the edge of community, 1 degree at a time toward the center of self. And I'm dying of heat. Excuse me. I'll only take this off. Yeah, if it gets any worse, you may have to wear a blindfold. Okay, back to Montana. What I carry home to the grandsons. Holding the disability pre-board card, I say to the flight attendant who will lift my luggage, first, I need the neck brace and ostrich egg from my carry-on. The cheerleader type in the next seat can't wait to ask about my disability. I read out loud the ingredients on a Nutridel cookie package in my other hand. Oats, whole wheat flour, wheat bran, sunflower seeds, dry coconut, sesame seeds, molasses, sunflower oil, all in the right order for optimal health, I say. Then I show her the bodies in my purse. A shriveled baby rattlesnake dented from a tire, a prairie dog's jawbone with perfect teeth. The only remains from my grandfather, I tell her. An intact mouse skeleton found in the wall of the Montana cabin, a home-stuffed rabbit's foot. She says nothing for the rest of the flight to California, just checks her watch. I read in the piece of what a deaf person might hear. Well, I get attached to other places too, and one of them is Port Townsend. I go to Centrum there fairly often for writing residencies, and I've fallen in love with the madrona tree that's there on Fort Worden. Saying goodbye. The cut daffodils on the kitchen table turn dark gold after 2 weeks. Out of the window, late afternoon sun emblazons bark on a madrona tree to a deep cherry sheen. Such light is a living thing, like the deer that strip ribbons of red from bark, or woodpeckers that eat the orange-puckered berries. Such light never shone inside a church, not in 60 years of Sundays. A searchlight for lost souls, for the downtrodden, the sick, the guilty, the sad. The heart's beaten into a flat line. It sucks me to its bosom, elevates me to high branches where I see the purpose of everything around me. The bee in the wild rose bush, Why the waves in the ocean, the robin's song at dusk, the onset of night, the circular motion of the stars. It is here in this tree where I leave you, my wings as butterfly brittle as a dead daffodil, before it crumbles into the earth to become bone meal for the roots. Every morning I write in a coffee shop for an hour or two. At home it's Starbucks, a local Starbucks. When I travel, it's any place I can find that sells good coffee. It would certainly be here if I lived anywhere around. And this informs a lot of my work too, and I can't help but pay a little attention about what goes on around me and write about it. So my next collection will probably be a coffee house one. Here's one, and then I have one closing poem that's sort of a coffee house poem. What's in a name? He didn't come to Starbucks for coffee yesterday or today. I listen for the tap-tap of his cane, the breath that sighs from the easy chair next to mine as he sinks into it every morning. When I drag out my mental scrapbook from a summer in Osaka to manage Konnichiwa or Ohio gozaimasu. He tries simple English, like the haiku he grew up with. Silent words sometimes shape our lips. His scowl when someone beats me to my chair, my smile at his vigilance. Mostly we rely on fingers, a tap on his shoulder. I hand him a piece of chocolate, curl of his pointer when his voice fails and I lean in for his thank you, a not to worry wave when he shuffles to the restroom. I like this limited relationship, the almost romance of it, the quiet between us and the mystique. I worry and want to call him now that I've finished my refill, but realize I don't even know his name. My final poem is a form that I've decided to call Platoon, and it's a poem that reads okay and you can understand it on the paper because you can use indentations or quotes, but you can't read it out loud because it doesn't make any sense. So it really requires two voices, and I find I write a lot of these platoons. And so this is one of them, and Charmaine has graciously agreed to be the second voice for it. It's kind of a coffee house poem. I can be inspired to write a poem even standing out in front of a coffee house. I gave it to her earlier. She gave it back, and I said, keep it. And she said, no, I'll lose it. Well, guess who's lost it? Right there.
Thank you.
While waiting outside Pete's Pizzeria.
A cockroach comes from the sewer grate, marching a mission to the door, waits for the customer who opens it, an unwitting doorman for the mayor of Cockroach County.
I'm 10 again, in the back seat of a Rambler, my farmer father driving in San Francisco traffic and calling every other driver a cocksucker, me envisioning the only cock word I know, cockroach.
A vibrator buzz emanating from a bee drills the air outside the pizzeria window. It flits back and forth in a furor. A small storm in front of green fluorescence, glass separating it from beer, soda, and perfume.
I'm a freshman again in college, a good girl at debate rehearsal in a basement with a group of intellectuals. And I say, someone kill that cocksucker before it gets away.
5 minutes later, the cockroach is buried in a flour bin or a pile of plate scrapings, bragging about its 350 million years of survival. The bee still beats wings against glass like a crazed construction worker with a dental drill.
I can't suffer the sound any longer, so move toward the darkened coffee bar next door to wait for someone to open the door for a reading on a small stage where we'll celebrate the perpetuity of thousands of years of poetry. And I thank you very much, and thank you, Charmaine.
I'm going to need some more volume. Oh, okay. Thank you. I don't talk, I murmur like Daisy in The Great Gatsby. Well, what a great turnout. It's such a thrill to be able to say thank you so much for coming and not have to say both of you. This is the poem for which I was nominated for the pushcart. I said coffee. I didn't say, would you like to cup my warm, soft breast in your uncalloused, long, tapered, ringless, fingered hand? I said coffee. I didn't say, would you like to run your tongue along my neck just below my left earlobe? I said coffee. I didn't say, would you like to hold me in your arms and feel my heart skip beats as you press your hard, lean body up against mine until I melt into you with desire? I said coffee. As we stood there in the jasmine-scented night, my car door like some modern-day bundling board separating us, protecting us from ourselves and lust. I said, would you like to go for a cup of coffee? I didn't say, would you like to brush your lips across mine as you move silently to bury your face in my long, silky, raven black hair? But you said, I can't. I'm married. I can't trust myself to be alone with you. So I looked you dead in the eye and repeated, I said coffee. Thank you. Had he lived, our son Nikolai would be 29 years old this year, and this is dedicated to him. You never saw the spring, my love, or the red-tailed hawk circling high above on feathered wings, my love. You only knew the snow. You never saw the prairie grasses bend and blow and undulate like the shimmering indigo sea. You never saw me. Your eyes were closed so tight. They say you put up quite a fight. Somehow, your life was over before it had begun, and gently did I touch and kiss your tiny fingered hand. Born too soon, you never saw the silver moon or the light of a summer's day. Last night I dreamt a gathering of eagles had come to spirit you away. Born too soon, your tender heart could not beat to the pulsing rhythm of life's taut drum. Oh. Let's see, this one is a poem I wrote for my friend Gary's mother who went to live in the spirit world. I'm going to do all the dead poems first. She went to live in the spirit world a few days after my father, and it's called Unconditional Love. I was thinking of your mother today, the first woman you ever loved, the one all others must measure up to, the first sound you heard, the beating of her heart as she nourished you and dreamt of you before your birth, cradled there in the warmth of her body, which now has turned to silver ashes in your hand. Let's see. This is a poem that I wrote for my, I'm going to do this one. Oh, life, where have you taken me? It's once I was your fair-haired child. Now it seems I'm out of style. Oh, life, be gentle yet. There are things I can't forget, like autumn love without regret, when autumn turned to winter. Mottled leaves in circles twirl inside the spirits of the girl whose arms were once around you. Love, where have you gone? Just when I thought I'd found you, snowflakes dance like feathers round my head. I cannot dream my dreams in an empty bed. Life is for lovers, that's what you said, then placed your soul inside me. But now that winter's taken you from sleep, it seems there's nothing left to keep you here beside me. The next poem, this is written for my father, who spent quite a bit of my childhood in some far-off jungle or foreign shore, and it's called Poetry of Lies. You filled my childhood with your poetry of lies and did not let me hear your soft goodbyes. I was a ragamuffin, a changeling, a gypsy orphan child, sweet and shy, running wild. The wind and sun, they were my song. I did not stay a child for long. My cheeks were roses plucked from stem, my eyes vast pools or dark green gems. I did not stay a child for long. I miss the days you gave me. I can count them one by one. Yet in the web of childhood, I do not regret the things that we have done. You showed me how to brave the world and not be hurt by sticks and stones that other people hurled. You taught me lessons. I learned them well. Now I live my life inside a shell. Crack the egg, the chicken dies. You filled my childhood with your poetry of lies. And now there's no one near to hear the woman in me cry. Let's see. We're going to move on. That's from my first book, Unsung Songs. Now we're going to move on to my second book, which is called Silver, Tears, and Time. This next poem, when I wrote it, it's called Wild Dark Love Song. And when I wrote it, I went to the internet and I Googled the word Kaider Idris to make sure I had spelled it correctly. And I discovered there's this Welsh legend that says if you climb to the top of the Kaider Idris and you spend the night, when you awaken in the morning, you'll either be mad or a poet. Her man, a wild, dark love song, born deep within her gypsy soul. He's gone to live in jagged mountains where salmon jump and sing in tarns high above the cloud lines beyond the silver moon, in the shadow of the Kaider Idris, in misty mountains where meadowlarks are known to wing and wild geese fly across the winter sky. He's gone to live in snow-capped mountains where frozen voices echo across the frosty fields, across the icy meadow, languidly across the frigid lea, then back again. He's gone from her forever, this wild, dark love song, her man. And this next poem, it was the first time I went to Chicago without my husband after he had passed away. I'd been there alone many times. We were crossing the street where I used to live with him, and this poem just hit me in the face and had to be written. Windy City, 2003. The Windy City has lost its breath and soul without you here. Streets we used to wander, now empty and alone. Memories etched in every paving stone. Our old stomping grounds, Michigan, Huron, Erie, Superior, have all lost their magic spell, now empty and alone. Memories etched in every brick and stone. There was the time they set off extra fireworks from Navy Pier, the street names I had come to know so well, now empty and alone, memories etched in every single stone. The art galleries echo, but it's your voice I long to hear, explaining all the paintings and sculptures, now empty and alone, memories etched on canvas, carved in stone. The Windy City has lost its breath and soul without you here. Streets we used to wander, now empty and alone. Your memory etched in the marrow of my bone. This one, oddly enough, I wrote up here in the summer, and it's called There Were Dry Red Days. And I don't think that happens very often. There were dry red days, devoid of clouds, devoid of breeze. Sound bruised my burning bones. Dirt cracked my hands and caked my cheeks. no buds on limbs of trees, no birds on branches, no hope of rain. Scrawny chickens kicked up dust, scratching for food that wasn't there. In the stifling stillness of the scorched night, we dreamt of cool oases, tropical isles, emerald bays, not these dry, red days. This one's called Evolution. I swim near summer shadows, glide over dappled shoals, keeping to the fluid shallows, reminiscent of the womb where I learned to swallow gulps of tantalizing air. In the moist amniotic sac where I shed scales, preferring skin and hanks of auburn hair upon my head, I dispensed with fins and gills, grew hands and feet with which to tread and push away from muddy banks. I've no desire to wallow in the rushes, no human need the thin, sharp reeds knot and tangle, cut and pierce my derma layer. I can dance below the surface upon the rocky sand. I shall dangle near the river bottom, suspended, floating free, like the embryo I used to be. Okay, this one, let's see. Oh, this is kind of interesting. My third collection of poetry is called Contingencies, and I painted all the covers of my books. And this one, not only did I build the fly rod and tie all those flies, but I caught that fish, I cleaned him myself, I stuffed him with herbs from my garden and lemons from my tree, and then I cooked him on a Tuscan grill in my fireplace over wood that I had chopped from a tree that my cousin Alice and I felled. So this is called Contingencies. In Azcapotzalco, I remember mostly their dark eyes, their round brown faces, Mexican bowl haircuts, and then the outstretched dirty palms on the end of spindly arms, tiny hands with ragged fingernails. In Weligama, on palm-fringed beaches, they encircled us, their dry, cracked lips begging for a tuppence. 1 2-piece, they chanted, clad mummy-like in rags, gray from the mud of streets, the filth of poverty, their smiles engaging. I have seen them in Cairo, near the city of the dead, where the deceased live better than the living. Hauntingly beautiful children, maimed, crippled, scarred by their parents in order to elicit pity, hence silver and copper coins from the rich American tourists. In Lima, in front of the cathedral which held the catafalques in Pizarro's tomb, a gypsy woman tried to hand me a baby, pleading, un regalo, un regalo. As I reached out for her gift, you held me back. Don't take it, you hissed. She'll run away. I stood there, in the shadow of the basilica, in somber half-light, in the cobbled streets of this foreign city. My barren heart, my fallow womb, needing the baby, but you pulled me away. Oh, I love this one. This is called Bird Song. 1. While planting my garden, the wind came and blew the seeds from my open palm. The next time I saw them, they were tiny yellow flowers in my neighbor's garden. 2. While playing with my canary, he escaped through an open window. The next time I saw him, he was perched in my neighbor's plum tree, singing. 3. The one I hoped to marry stopped visiting. The next time I saw him, he was sipping tea and laughing as he admired my neighbor's tiny yellow flowers. Together, they listened to birdsong. Let's see. I think we're going to move into the brand new book, which is called La Calima. La Calima is the name by which they call the Siroccos in the Canary Islands. Like swallows, they return each year, their vermilion scarves stirring in the relentless, oppressive, scalding siroccos. They come amber-scented from Tunisia, the hems of their lilac caftans fluttering in the zephyr's white, hot breath. They come from Kashmir, with Mendi-stained hands and feet, physical graffiti, their silk saris whispering raginis pitched to sultry winds. They come from Cairo, their coal eyes searching the bazaar for the delicate spiderweb lace, the rondelles woven by needle-pricked fingers. They come from Andalusia with jessamine and geranium pinned into the lustrous ripples of their burnished ebony hair. They come and they go to return like swallows each year. Oh, National Poetry Month, so we have to do Lorca. Okay. Across the ochre meadow he stumbled, blindfolded. Wildflowers dotting unfamiliar terrain quivered in morning's cool breeze. The same gentle wind slightly ruffled his hair. For a brief moment, clouds obscured sun, then the high-pitched click and clink of metal upon metal, ammunition loaded, rifles cocked, while butterflies danced an erratic air ballet. How would he have described the staccato sound of a firing squad as it shatters the golden dawn? Or should one perhaps refer instead to the sudden cessation of birdsong, then the silken whisper of wings beating against a blood-drenched sky, as seen through the dead poet's eye? Let's see, let's do Rain. This is one that takes me back to my own culture. It was the rhythm of the dance. It was the pace of her footsteps. It was the dust. Squinting, she looked up at the sun and told him, "We need rain." She told him she would dance until Great Spirit sent clouds with thunder and lightning and wet arrows of rain for the parched earth. She told him if Grandfather did not send rain, she was willing to die dancing. And so she danced. She danced for the dried willow. She danced for the spotted calf. She danced for the brown, burnt silk thread strands in the yellow corn. She danced for the river's murmuring dark song. She danced for the bluebird with the blood-red streak on his indigo wings. She danced for the cedar, the sweetgrass, and sage. She danced for those who had gone before and for those yet to come. She danced. I have two more, and this one is called Things I'll Do Now That He's Gone. And I was invited to Tuscany. I won a silent auction. And I couldn't find anyone to go with me, and then I invited this guy, and then we broke up. So I wrote this, and it's called Things I'll Do Now That He's Gone. I'll go to Tuscany alone and flirt with dark-eyed men. I'll buy a zither and join a gypsy band. I'll paint my toenails fire engine red. I'll learn to write Sanskrit and leave messages scrawled in indelible ink on bathroom walls in cities with names beginning with the letter Q. I'll stay in on Thursdays and cry myself to sleep on Friday nights. I'll learn to tango and propagate red roses with 12-inch stems devoid of thorns. I'll make wishes on stars and believe that they'll come true. I'll subscribe to Ladies' Home Journal. I'll have an affair with Bob Dylan. I'll lose 10 more pounds and become famous for something truly inane. It could happen, you know. Okay, this is the last one, and it's called Upon Going to Erica's Office on 2nd Street for the First Time. So there I am in New York, and I'm headed towards my niece's office, and I always get lost no matter where I'm going. And I found her building, and I noticed this brass plaque that said Allen Ginsberg had lived there. I was so stoked. I couldn't believe it, and then I realized I was in front of the wrong building. Well, she said it was between the tattoo parlor and the psychic, but did not allude to the fact that Allen Ginsberg lived there from August 1958 to March of 1961. Didn't mention that it was across the street from Clean and Cleaner and on the same block as Chase Bank. Did not think to describe the blue fire escapes, limpet-like clinging to windowed walls, or its juxtaposition to the East Village Lounge, which probably wasn't even there in Ginsberg's day. Didn't say a word about the sprawling graffiti sprayed on the red brick wall at number 171. Perhaps didn't remember the yellowed leaves of the honey locust tree with its curled brown pods hanging over cracked cement sidewalks, nowhere to drop its fertile seed. Maybe she never looked up to notice the acanthus leaf, the egg and dart, the Greek key, the lamb's tongue, buildings crowned by an ornamental frieze with their pigeon-soiled stoops, common walls, and iron gates. Not a word was said about the mournful elegy he wrote for his mother in apartment number 16 just before he moved, or that the new tenants, when the wind howls and rain spatters against the pane, sometimes hear a harmonizing click and clack and ding of a Smith Corona around midnight, while his spirit hammers out a Kaddish for himself. Aho me takoyase. Thank you so much, and thank you for inviting us.
Thank you so much to Charmaine and Elleraine. We will now take about a 10-minute break, so please get something to drink or snack on. Also check out the books that our featured readers have. Elleraine's are on this table here, and Charmaine's are up here. Please check them out. And also check out the collage book that Elleraine brought. And we'll see you again in about 10 minutes.
Never tell you truth is subjective. They only tell you not to lie. They never tell you there's strength and vulnerability. They only tell you not to cry. But I've been living underground, sleeping on the way. Is it true that only good girls go to heaven? They only sell you what you buy. And I've been living underground, sleeping on the way, and finding something else to say. It's like walking on the freeway. Oh, why living underground, trying not to burn, and finding something else to learn at Hollywood and Western. Taking all my pills, but I'm still not sleepy. Tried to trick myself into thinking that I'm not awake, that it's only a dream. Put that cigarette out, don't ask me no questions. Salome dancing on my wall, and the shadows on the floor look so warm from here. I've seen it all before, just one little lie, but the difference is this: meant the world to me. Don't ask me no questions. Take the wheel, she said, as I wander. We could leave this town. Oh, I've got all I need: spirit, hope, and joy, but no one knows me. Think I lost my pills, guess I'll take my chances. Looking at the telephone, but nothing happens. I am well aware that the morning is near. Put that radio down, don't ask me no questions. standing on the water is easier to do than to try and be a family living here with you. And the more I've been thinking, the more I know. No, I'm living alone. Now I see him out on the water waves, rolling on the foam. Only memories for a future, on the ocean for a home. 'Cause Amelia's the name that she calls herself these days. And birds, birds is all we heard before she flew away. And the more I've been thinking, the more I know. No, I'm living got a pocket full of words that you keep in the garage, together with the feathers and the fireworks. Surftown heroes got one foot in the garden where the neon lighted cocktail glasses bloom. And they built you a model airplane like the one that brought you back to Lindbergh Field. Now you're counting your change by the streetlights on India. Hey, it's me again, I'm faded. Could you please come over? You can do what you want in an umbilical town, in a waterfront bar. After then he was a friend of mine. The third time around she was born again. She must have burned at least $500,000 in the little rooms next door to wash and fold. And there ain't no consolation prize, there's no just the wild-eyed faces, names that you've forgotten. Hey, the money's gone, I'm broken. Could I please come over? You can do what you want. An umbilical town in a waterfront bar. Yeah, and I've been dreaming we were born together. I've been thinking about it. Been lurking back streets, kicking down alleyways. I've been thinking about it. How it's always worse than it appears. Raskolnikov out on the stairs, howling at the man in the moon. And he said he lost control between the suburbs and the barrio, tired from too much too soon. Now the air is thick with compromise. We're always on the way, and I take comfort in the only life I know. Where you can do what you want. An umbilical town in that waterfront bar. An umbilical town. You can do what you want. You can do what you want. You can do what you want.
Good evening again, everyone. We're ready to get started with our open mic. Thank you so much for coming. If you want to find your seats, we'll try and get started in a second. I'm curious to know, I have a question for you. I'm curious to know who's here for the first time. Wow. Where did you hear about the reading? On Earth. Who's here for the first time on Earth? Me too. If this is your first night at the poetry night, first time at the poetry night, how did you hear about it? The internet? Okay. Friend is reading? Oh, excellent. Brought groupies. Okay, well, I'm always glad to know how new folks heard about the reading. If you signed up for the reading, and it's your first time reading for us tonight, please mention that, and we'll give you an extra round of applause. So our first reader tonight is somebody who's read here many times. In fact, he works here. Please welcome Taylor.
First off, thank you again for everybody coming out and supporting Soul Food and supporting the cause for spreading our light the best way we know how. And tonight I wrote a quick haiku in which I hope you enjoy. Freeing one's self-images, rebirth after winter's death. I will find a way. Thank you.
Thank you, Taylor. It says haiku night up on the sign here. I'm not sure where that came from. So, I see. So that's our haiku for tonight. Okay, our question for this evening is, as those of you who've been here regularly, you know we have a question for our poets. And the question was, what is your dream car or other mode of transportation? And our next reader, Herb McLeese, says his dream car is a private jet. Herb McLeese.
I'm going to try to project this way, hoping that people here can hear what I'm saying. So if you don't hear, let me know. And if you don't hear and don't want anyone to know that you don't hear, don't say anything. Exactly. I will, yeah, for the people, the tree people, the people hanging in the trees. I'm going to first, poetry is about community in one way or another. And so it's something that I've been actually meditating on because it gives you a kind of a goal, if you will, if you write. And there's one poet, an Irish poet, Seamus Heaney, won the Nobel Prize in Literature in 1996, I think. And he wrote a poem that is an interesting one that is about transformation, if you will, in a meditation. And then I'll read a poem of my own, which is a sort of a transformation by experience. And just, they're not comparable, they're just about transformation, but they both have a notion of community and responsibility. And in Soul Food here, there's a lot of vibration about the earth and caring about the earth and so on, so this should be particularly relevant here. So I'm quoting, this poem is Seamus Heaney's poem, St. Kevin and the Blackbird. And then there was St. Kevin and the blackbird. The saint is kneeling, arms stretched out inside his cell, but the cell is narrow. So one turned up palm is out the window, stiff as a crossbeam, when a blackbird lands and lays in it and settles down to nest. Kevin feels the warm eggs, the small breasts, the tucked, neat head and claws, and finding himself linked into the network of eternal life, is moved to pity. Now he must hold his hand like a branch out in the sun and rain for weeks until the young are hatched and fledged and flown. And since the whole thing's imagined anyhow, imagine being Kevin. Which is he, self-forgetful or in agony all the time, from the neck on out, down through his hurting forearms? Are his fingers sleeping? Does he still feel his knees? Or has the shut-eyed blank of under-earth crept up through him? Is there distance in his head? Alone and mirrored clear in love's deep river. To labor and not seek reward, he prays, a prayer his body makes entirely. For he has forgotten self, forgotten bird, and on the riverbank, forgotten the river's name. Okay, and this is mine. It's called The Leaf Blower. Some of you have heard this before. Many of you have heard this before. I awoke to birdsong, a blessed sound, and decided to take an early walk in the slanted light to drink in the dewy peace. But tranquility was broken by the ripping snarl of a leaf blower riding the back of a lawn care specialist. Back and forth he swept without apparent effect, for the debris was soon reclaimed by the wind for another day. Could this sound be demonic, extolling in its stumbling gait futility and suppressing thought? But when I drew close, he throttled it back to a chuckle, and the smiling specialist waited for me to pass. This humble man, too, was swept away across the border by the winds of economic change. Now I know what this sound means, a phrase from long ago. It is the sound of freedom, and he heard it in Mexico. Thank you.
Thank you, Herb. I'm going to go a little bit out of order for our next reader. Her favorite car would be a late 60s, early 70s white Corvette. I think I could handle one of those. Please welcome Danielle.
Hi. This is untitled as of yet. Dear Ophelia, I dreamt of your grandmother last night. I framed her face with wood from the river that was crushed by the weight of someone lithe and white, still in the steady ripples and wilting plants. She was a clumsy child's attempt at dignity, her pink tongue stumbling upon words barely able to stand on their own. Once they fell past her small, pristine teeth and the inappropriate swell of lips wet from drinking river water. I watched her sneak behind the abandoned school. With tears on her withered cheeks, she threw a dead bird into the air again and again, willing it to fly. This is technology. And although I don't usually, I try not to give disclaimers for my poetry, I feel like I need to for this one. I've been really, really upset about the fractured communication that happens because of Facebook and texting and even my own father. Like I've been driven to the point of near tears over this over the past week or two, and I'm just tired of it. So that's where this comes from. This is technology. Where trains wind like tapeworms through the belly of this country lie sleeping giants, trees that move in the night and still believe in sacred things like a father's promise, a daughter's sacrifice, a dog's trust. The dirt reminds me of how we move when we love, twitching and thrashing at the wind's slightest touch. Here we try to speak with prosthetic tongues like the machines we created, twisting and crippling our bodies, pressing metal and buttons into our fingertips. We cannot touch each other. We are so full of so little, we cannot speak. We put our hands against the wall with desperate hope the people on the other side can feel what they cannot hear. Thank you.
I'll try not to send you a Facebook posting to say. Yes. Our next reader is a Camaro sort of guy, and in fact he would like a 68 or 69 Camaro, but I'd like to know what color. Please welcome Tim.
The only good Camaros come in black. There is no other color. I think this one is loosely titled Tumbleweed. Unfathered animals, heads in a jar. The gods of science, giants or fallen stars. So certain we've come further. Have you read the annals of medicine? We're killing our brother. We died for kings, we died for gods. Now we only die for oil. Our truth, our light, our savior, oil. Your parents were wrong. Your teachers, your heroes, all wrong. Listen to the American who died 500 years ago. He studied the water, lived like the wind to blow. He died for what he stood for, and the wind blows forevermore. Time poisoned the water, the wind carries the sores. We'll die for what we stood for. I can't stand it anymore. There's no tincture for time that can be made. Nothing can live in fire water. Can't sheathe the sword you've drawn. No pen can restore the peace. The children paint the portrait, and man folds. Can silence be the only peace? Can we rest only when we cease? Are we the only universal disease? Though we lived on the dream of peace, even the cactus sows a seed. Even the root knows when to let go the weed, who died for what he stood for, and the wind blows forevermore. In a time when metal monsters roam the earth, suckling on the waning milk of ancient abundance, blind beasts built armies to glean the fields they'd sowed with power hunger. A gentle creature gazes at the frail and dying mother while planting seeds of hope in the light of a new dawn. Razor rows of jaw teeth stand like books on shelves. Instruments with faces of men lay nets at the feet of the meek. Hearts like empty silos lie, broken buckets as empty wells beneath their heaps of rope. On the day of the amended, where was I? For the blanket in the sky and wherewithal, though my name once on the pages, fear I never heard you call. Lost the blanket in the sky and wherewithal. A gentle creature hearkens to the cooing horde, beckoning with branch held high, the broadening accord. Shofar of the chiromancer, lordly in our eyes, colorful that peril's boon braids across the skies. Into dreams to harden hearts and lift the lids of eyes. Hearts like empty silos lie, broke as rudders in low tide flats. Gardens guarded by the goat. In the keys to the kingdom held 'twas I, by the blanket in the sky and wherewithal. Though my name once on the pages, fear I never heard you call. Lost in the blanket in the sky and wherewithal. And this is called Diesel Moto Trout. The crisp air burned our nostrils and the morning sun fed our souls as we threw our lines into the deep diamond waters, excitement and adventure our goal. Lines we tossed and tales we told, and never did the joy of fishing grow old. Lakes and browns and rainbows we pulled out, still only fireside stories were told of the great V12 diesel moto trout. With its scales of chrome and halogen eyes, fished for with steel cables and muskrat-sized flies. Though many had hoped and dreamed to glean, to this very day no one has seen that whale of a fish, that fireside tale that once filled Paul Bunyan's 900-gallon pail. Just between you and me, in its existence, I've no doubt, for I surely believe and intend to fish on for the great V12 diesel moto trout.
Thank you, Tim. On our sign-up sheet, there are two columns. One was a column for Dream Car, And a few people, there were several people who wrote down what they were going to read instead. Either that or this is not a dream car that I've ever heard of. It's 2 poems in Spanish, which I'm looking forward to. And this will be read by Laura. Maybe you can tell us what your dream car is too. Laura.
Well, I'm smaller. I'm going to read in Spanish. I know you'll be like, what is she reading? But just listen to the sound, and it has good vibes and good energy. She was such a trip. Manos esqueléticas teñidas de violeta pálido atrapan a seres elevados y los empujan hacia la eternidad. Aburrimiento irremediable, limosna para tu locura. Llamas regresan seccionadas a tu subsuelo decorado con tenazas. Sueñas con travesías interoceánicas en una habitación inmóvil. Vagabundeas vagantemente por los ríos contenados de hombres postergados. Mente traslúcida, todopoderosa, tóxica, torturadora, tibia, vertiginosa voluntad de tu amante en Via Crucis, perdición mística. Mis falanges se quiebran y te empujan. Perro persa plagado de placeres. It's hot in here. Man, the lights. Oh yeah, baby. Perro persa plagado de placeres postergados. Toma cerveza burbujeante entre entierros de momentos fugitivos. Bienvenido a la perrera flagelante, al paraíso de formas humanas, a la huerta de psicosis pasajera, al próximo requiem familiar, a las camas ajenas, a las infinitas resacas verborrágicas, a la zofobia venerada, a las tentaciones santificadas, al mitómano lírico que enciende tu pucho y liquida la colilla intermitente. Esa microfotografía dilató tus pupilas milimétricas. Fumaste cannabis en alcaloides y te produjo neurosis de insectos metaforizados. Solo pudiste mear tu lápida insaciablemente. Encontraste un señor con gorra azul y dientes rotos. Rígidamente gatillaste el taladro. You probably don't know what I'm talking about, huh? La termodinámica inconclusa de los diamantes que bailan en tu insanidad. Absorbes anestésicos locales, bebes licores que te conducen a la locura, reservas hojas cuyo efecto es narcótico, leas en el libro del abyecto, observes en la mucosa volátil o en tus substratos subcutáneos. Thanks.
Thank you. Those poems are both about nuclear disarmament, right? I have a feeling they weren't. Our next reader is Bud, and under Dream Car, either that or the poem title is Wings. Please welcome Mode of Transportation. Okay, Wings. Please welcome Bud.
Right. Hello, hello. Low enough, high enough. My first time reading ever. So please excuse my nervousness. Is that loud enough? Hello? Hello? Better? All right. Backstory. It's just a letter I wrote to certain somebody. I guess that's probably all about it. Okay. To begin with the old, for what it's worth, just doesn't seem right, at least not to me. Not that I think that it's impolite. It's just what's writ and read seems so free. Instead, for what it is, I'm glad to have crossed your path, be it from chance or the perfection of fate's math. With us as friends, there was always a spark, no matter the presence of a mutual mate, your loving man. I thought a quick end was better than the mark of the ladder, penitence. I couldn't wait, so I ran. I told you that I don't have it in me to only be your pal, not the want, nor the will, or the knowledge of how. Not to say for you alone my beating heart will flow, but I can't deny the heat between us, and some flames should never grow. Prior to you, to engage a girl who had a lover I thought was far from my style. But I wondered if, with a single kiss, would our friendship I defile? I pondered no more when your response lacked regress. My offense led, then, to my heart and lips you pressed. Since that sinful kiss, I'm relearning omitting such passion is an effort that doesn't last. I'm left now turning to questions I forgot I was too afraid to ask. As if being told the date of my expiration, when constant is a grave and life is done. In a state of desperation, I ached for truth, knowing it'd be best to not crave the outcome. But I ask, is life only waves of strange luck, or simply flowing streams of fate? Shall I test the waters of energy and manifest, or roll in my pants, wait and wait? Was it really love, or just that taboo alone triggered our endorphins rush? Regardless, I guess, these words of our forbidden lust are left as quiet as a whisper's hush. I know your life with your other, like the careful keeping of a rose, is delicate to its every petal. Hence, I'd rather lend my cold shoulder than to know the wrathful reaping of those who meddle. Forgive me you must, if I am out of place. I just assume to avoid such fuss, save face, and keep this space between us. Lest you assure me the fire was solely mine, that I alone felt the heat of the flame, and all my thoughts of such I shall resign, and leave my heart and lips to blame. I know the ties that bind friendship. Its strength is beyond the densest bone. I only fear its equal in power, when to each a mutual crush is known. Still, you say we should be friends as though it's too trying a task, or I lack the heart and time to spare. I say, to what end? Shall we parade wearing lying masks, masquerading to hide our parts in this crime we share? Must we stay meek, hid in the dark? I despise hiding from the glory of lust's alluring glow. Let its trusting shine speak, like that spark in your eyes that tells a story I hope one day to know. I write you this, not in hopes you'll come running toward my open arms, by reminding you of my certain wit and cunning charm. Not to beg you to leave your other, by confessing my love because it's you I can't get over. I believe in progressing, yet we all save spare keys, leaving life's doors no real closure.
Thank you for spreading your wings. Our next reader likes an MG sports car, which I think I could handle too. Jim Teeters.
Here's a couple of end-of-life poems, something cheery. In my time at the University of Washington as a student many years ago, I was in an anatomy class. We were required to take anatomy lab, in which you dissected cadavers. Anybody do that? Yeah. Oh, lots of fun. Great people. Okay. So this is called Anatomy Lab, and by the way, I did sign papers not too long ago, signing my own body to this experience. Anatomy Lab. I foolishly or not offered my body to our local medical school to be studied after I die. As is customary, my gray remains will be subjected to a rude intrusion, my skull sawed in half to show off my medulla oblongata, and no amount of luck would cause me to stand up and say, "Stop it!" So, for the benefit of some eager pre-med students, they will gently tear me apart, study my muscles and bones, dissect my eyeballs, and decipher my stringy nerves. All through the night, I will lie and wait under a damp sheet before daybreak to bring the cold steel and prying fingers that will lay waste to what I cherish, what I have called myself. Okay, thank you. And this is called Life and Death. Power walking on my way, jogging, stretching, bending, eating wisely every day, keep my life from ending. Sipping coffee all alone, writing in my journal, eat a whole wheat scone and ponder life eternal. Like a grape upon a vine, waiting for the squeezing, clutching what I think is mine, hope I don't die freezing. Like an apple on a tree, I hang beneath the sky, wonder, is this all our be or end up in your pie? All this worry over life and death is sad, you see. All this anguish, pain, and strife will be the death of me. Thank you.
Thank you, Jim. Our next reader has written down 2 poems as her dream car. And I could drive 2 poems. That sounds good. Please welcome Sheila.
Had I known, and actually my favorite mode of transportation probably would be a bicycle, so I'd have put that down. And I'm a self-confessed tree hugger. And the natural world kind of gives meaning and context to my life. And so both these poems are inspired by, we're lucky enough to live next to the Redmond watershed, and we get some amazing animals and birds that bless us with our presence. So this is where these poems have come from. And the first one is called The Cooper's Hawk. The hawk is back today. I feel him in the silence of birdsong before I see him. Perched on the post, eyeing me imperiously, an intensity to his gaze. Should I sit or prostrate myself in praise of such magnificence? And then, as if to demonstrate even the mightiest possess a sense of humor, he hops to the ground to dance clumsily in the flowers, talons not suited for such inelegance. And I have seen those talons executing the task for which they were designed. Witness the stealthy plunging from a blue heaven to snatch a chickadee with deft blow of feet and tumble of feathers. Listen to the rush of silence over the garden in the hawk's wake as birds go to ground in hiding, relieved surely to have been spared this time. The hawk, tiring of his own frivolity, more pressing matters requiring his attention, abruptly pushes the air aside. On broad wings he patrols the bushes, rapid, intricate maneuver of feathers and body, weaving impossibly through the tightest of turns. A single chickadee shriek, but the hawk turns up empty-taloned. Unperturbed, a shrug of wings, the hawk is gone. And I am left in the rush of silence. And then my second one is written in response to some of my favorite lines from a poem by William Blake. And it's to see a world in a grain of sand and a heaven in a wildflower. Hold infinity in the palm of your hand and eternity in an hour. And the poem's called Dear Mr. Blake. I think I found that grain of sand this morning when I stopped to listen to birdsong and heard the full harmony of the universe contained in a single winter wren. As I listened, I found a shell from the beach dropped in my pocket as a gift to myself last week. I held it in my hand, and a single grain of sand, the one with a picture of the world painted on its side, fell onto my outstretched palm. And I wanted to let you know, I think I held eternity when I held that shell. If I could just make out the letters in the spiral stretching into infinity. If I could glimpse a heaven in a flash of red and spun gold above my head. And I did. A rufous hummingbird dancing love across the sky in a courtly swoop and soar. So thank you.
Thank you so much for joining us for the first time. Next, our reader, well, actually, before that, I wanted to mention that the Redmond Association of Spoken Word will be having its monthly reading a week from tomorrow. So that's the last Friday night of the month at their old Redmond Schoolhouse, which is over that way a few blocks. And I'm going blank on the reader, but there's a mix of fiction and nonfiction and poets who read, plus the open mic. So please come to that. That's on April 29. And of course, we'll be back here again next month for the Soul Food Poetry Night on May 19. I also wanted to mention that I'm giving a workshop at the Redmond Public Library on Tuesday, starting at 6:30 p.m. It's a free workshop, April 26, and that will focus on writing haiku poetry, so please come for that. Our next reader is Meg, and she has written Walking Between Two Worlds, which is either a poem or a method of transportation. Meg, your first time too?
My poem has the, it's about dreams. Is that close enough? Okay, good. So I love dreams, and I work with a dream mentor, and so this poem is about dreams. And it's called Walking Between Two Worlds. I'm walking between two worlds, everyday and soul, harsh everyday glare, the tedious reality that even though flowers lies pale next to the dream. I'm walking between two worlds, the dream far from lists and alarm clocks that nonetheless cannot be separated and belong together. I have traveled just far enough to sense this. Every day waiting for its permutation, sacred infusion of dreams' wisdom, colors and textures giving meaning to the banal and superficial, that hunger for deeper fare. I'm walking between two worlds, connection the invisible bridge calling entrance to the solid tread of human feet, senses that might hear both the dolphin and voice next door, the winds whispering and the honking of cars. I'm walking between two worlds, sacred's thirst and longings trespass to be seen everywhere. Invisible bridges traversing body home and dream home, inviting dreams' texture into light of day. I walk between these worlds, God the beggar that says he'll work to drink another day, dogwood's blossoms that seem ever to invite, God's play into the gentleness and harshness of life. The dream dreaming both in its conquest, appetite that hungers for inclusive rights, to dream the solid and reel the imaginary, doors opening to fuzzy edges of reality. I walk between two worlds, overlapping timelessness one, stepping into sacred moments where time stops and soul enters, and the sound of a door opening allows the angels to tread. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next reader is Shadowbird, and he has written for his dream car, Lola. I wonder what that means. It's not a car I'm familiar with. Shadowbird.
Yeah, actually, there is a kind of car called a Lola, which is a racer. But that's not what I had in mind. Lola is the name of the car that I currently drive. And that's Lola as in Run, Lola, Run, for all you Franca Potente fans. And shortly after I got Lola. Thank you, Michael. Okay, so anyway, a friend of mine asked me, how do you like your new car? And I just looked him in the eye for a moment, and then I said, if this car was a chick, she'd be my everyday lay. Well, some of you know that besides reading my own work, I like to read other people's work, and oftentimes I read the work of female poets. And as a matter of fact, Lorraine Lockie is one of my absolute favorites. But tonight I'm going to read you two poems by Amy Fleury. And I saw her, probably in about 2004. She was out from Kansas, where she's from, and did two readings in Tacoma. I was fortunate enough to catch one of those. And of all the readings that I show up at, this is one that has really stayed with me, and something reminded me of her lately. So two poems from Amy Fleury's book, which is called Beautiful Trouble. When the dancing is done, I am a fool. Believe it. I whirl and wheel in my barefooted way, drunk and off kilter, hair in my face. For these moments, I am fooled into believing that I am spun by the moon, that soon I'll be spirited away. But I am bound to this place wherever the dancing is done, left with the wish to be easy in my body and the clumsy belief in flung arms and these dirty feet. The Fugitive Eve. In the first moments of knowing, juice drips down her chin onto her breasts. Lips and tongue learn in this oldest, truest way. The fruit is round and radiant. The firm weight of it feels like power. Shreds of flesh catch in her teeth, and as she eats, she knows it is good. He needs no serpent to tempt him. He just wants what she has, just as she wants him to want what she holds in her hands. They share it, then toss the core into a bush, knowing that this is the beginning of death, the first and true blessing. And with the original chill of delight and shame, she is on the lam, running through brambles, plum boughs, and luminous webs, past low-slung branches, past the birds of the air and beasts of the field, over the rocky soil, stumbling out of the garden, out of the numb perfection of before, into the brilliant and difficult ever after. She is running and running. She feels the warm rub of her blood-slicked thighs and a thudding which is her heart. He is close behind her, clutching the pain in his side. They take hold of one another in their wonder and woe, and we call out to them from our place in the future. This moment, now, we beg them with our fragile voices. Mother, Father, bear us into the beautiful trouble of this world.
Thank you. Our next reader's dream car is a Cadillac CTS Coupe. Cadillac CTS Coupe. I'll have to look that up. Kathy is our next reader.
About a year ago, I started taking Adderall for ADHD, and my doctor said I could take a second one on those days I needed to stay awake and alert. I did not know it was going to be haiku night, but I'm going to read some haiku I wrote last fall. The date I wrote them was 10/10/10, about my weekend, and most of them are about the first night I took a second Adderall. I'm a musician and a music teacher, and I was playing trombone in a dance band for a gig. And it'll be clear. Sigh, wish I could dance. It looks like so much fun. Play the tunes instead. Driving home, midnight, after the gig, wide awake, thank the Adderall. Don't want to go home, so to recapture my youth, driving for hours. I know you are there. Could check it out, but what for? I'll go to the beach. Am hopelessly lost in Burien. Maybe it's purgatory or some such. Am hopelessly lost in Normandy Park. Oh dear, back in Burien. Climbing into bed, 5:15 a.m., I say, what a difference a day makes. Your email critique, saying the same old, will hurt me no more. Who knew that small hairs scattered in the bathroom sink could make me smile so? Her trust, love in me, after what I did to her, leaves me speechless, awed. Could you be waiting for me to be waiting for you who is waiting? Oh, please, stop saying, as if I were but a child, you deserve better. I think that's enough. No more haiku for a while. I am off to bed. To the ones who say, haughtily, you deserve better, this is not your life.
Thank you. This is a recent poem of mine. It's in the realm of science fiction poetry. Depression. Never mind two suns in the sunset or interspecies romance. This Valtechian can't make any of his ends meet. Can't put ipsum on the table or a shoe on his child's foot. The volcanoes have been hyperactive this parsec shift, and with trade to Fornash curtailed by 2/3, the economy has earthed for everyone. Where's a supernova when you need one, or at least a drachma found on a moving sidewalk? Thank you. We have one more reader in our open mic, signed up by Taylor. Dan. So our last reader tonight is Dan. Maybe you can tell us your dream car too.
Yes, it is. Thank you. All right. Hope everyone can hear me. Let's see. I don't have names for anything I write, but hope you like it. The worth of our lives weighed in gold. At the end of my life, I will be sold. Disappointment all around, for at the end of my rainbow, there was no gold to be found. In its place, a note that said, "Look at the other end." Organic, straight from the seed to the mouth, in touch with Mother Earth, and overlooking the wants of the new age. I don't need a TV. I don't need a TV or a I don't need a TV or a cell phone, just a place to call home. It needs friends and family, no drama, just community, and search for what is right and the insight to be right. You drift and float from jungle to sea, expanding and creating your conscious serenity. Individuality is key to what is beyond belief. Belief in yourself to recognize greatness in your sound. Sound that flows from soul to soul, through the mic to speaker. Preformed to your form, your aura is clear, absconding with rarest of rare colors pure. These words are unclear, limited to knowledge. You are the air, soundless air that holds potential of all sound. Expansive oneness, you are, I am, all are one. Thank you.
Let's also give another round of applause for our two featured readers tonight, Charmaine and Elleraine. Thank you so much. And thanks to everyone who came tonight. I'd like to close by reading a poem by Tess Gallagher. This is a favorite poem of mine that she's written. It's called Choices. I go to the mountain side of the house to cut saplings and to clear a view to snow on the mountain. But when I look up, saw in hand, I see a nest clutched in the uppermost branches. I don't cut that one. I don't cut the others either. Suddenly, in every tree, an unseen nest where a mountain would be. Good night.